If you're like me, you've probably struggled with building in Terraria in a number of different ways, from picking blocks to paints to designs, all that kind of good stuff. But if you were here a little while ago, you know that we are struggling with one particular style of building, and that, of course, is going to be 3D builds. It can be really hard to come up with something pretty nice, but in this video, guys, I think we finally did it. Hey Terraria fans, welcome back to another speed build video. Guys, in this one, we finally made a 3D build that does not suck. Well, I don't think it sucks. I don't know. It's better than any other 3D build I've done. If you guys were here for a video I did a few weeks ago, which I'll link right up here, we did this sort of 3D Forgotten Relic thing, which I actually learned a lot from, but it just didn't really look good. But today's build is a little bit different. This one actually looks like a proper 3D build in my opinion. I'm sure there's a couple of things that some of you guys will pick out that maybe don't look quite as nice, but we went with this 3D Onsen style build. I don't really know why I went with this build specifically, but I am really happy with the final product. The whole build looks 3D and actually looks nice. There's some really nice colorful elements. The design choices I thought worked well. This thing really does look like an onsen or bathhouse you would find in the mountains in Japan, so I cannot complain with how this actually ended up turning out. Now, of course, as you can imagine, this was a struggle to put together, and if you'd actually like to see me struggle to put something like this together in the future, guys, feel free to check me out live on Twitch. The link is down below, or alternatively, if you're enjoying any of the content here on the channel or this video right now, feel free to hit the like, the subscribe, or the little dinner bell thingy so you can know when the next video hits the old YouTube universe. Now, of course, this is going to be a slightly longer build because it's in 3D, but I hope that you guys hang around until the end of the video because I will be covering every single material that I did use, and of course, that'll help you if you want to attempt to make something similar or, I don't know, get some ideas about your future builds. In any case, just hang around to the end to see all the materials and how this thing actually looks. With that, I'll shut up and let's get to the build, shall we? Alright guys, so with the 3D Onsen build done and what is probably arguably my best 3D build to date, let's go ahead and cover some of the materials like I promised at the beginning of this video. Now, it's probably no surprise to anyone who's ever watched a 3D build that there's a lot going on here, so of course there's going to be quite a number of different materials, but they're all pretty basic and nothing in particular really stands out. I mean, there's a few things I didn't use, especially when it comes to the walls. We used some blue dynasty wall and some disc wall, but everything else is pretty common in my opinion. It's a lot of fence, as you can tell, pretty much every fence you can think of actually. And then we used some Krampus horn wall. We also used a couple of our offline gem spark walls, which we then painted, and then yeah, kind of everything else feels pretty normal. Some Crimstone brick wall, some Ebonstone, and some Lizard brick wall, as well as some Hellstone brick wall, Mudstone brick wall, and even a bit of Living Leaf wall for, well, some obvious green foliage. Similarly, guys, we are also using a lot of the same blocks as we are walls, so we have some Crimstone brick, some Ebonstone brick, a lot of different woods, including spooky wood, boreal wood, and normal wood. We even have large bamboo, some normal bamboo, and probably uniquely some silly pink balloon and some Hellstone brick, which we use in a couple of spots. And of course, any of these Japanese themed builds is not going to be complete without some dynasty wood, which we used in a lot of places as well. Now with the blocks and walls covered, let's talk about the paints. Now you can see we actually use quite a number of different paints here, and they're not all necessarily as obvious as you may think. So the negative paint obviously will stand out in a couple places like the lanterns and that kind of thing. We of course use the yellow paint on our gem spark walls, which are offline. This is to give us a kind of window or lit window effect. And then a lot of deep cyan paint, some deep lime paint, some brown and some gray of course. There's also white. We then use some shadow paint only in a few places, as well as some deep blue paint in a few places as well. So the paints, while I guess varied, there's not that many, but they're used in very specific spots. The bulk of the build, of course, is going to be deep cyan, some brown, and some gray, which, you know, is kind of the obvious choices here when you're looking at a build like this. I think the roof color could have been a red or maybe even a lime color as well, but because we're building an outdoor onsen and sort of this natural feel to it, there's always going to be a lot of gray and green in that, and I want to make sure that the roof stood out just enough to, well, give us an idea or an impression that we were actually, you know, out of the background and out of the landscaping, which I think we did a pretty good job with. All right, so that covers all the materials and all of the paints, and with that, let's go ahead and move on with the rest of the video. All right, guys, so there is our 3D version of an onsen or Japanese bathhouse that is now done, and I gotta say, this thing looks spectacular. The house itself is very detailed and has a lot of 3D features. The color, I think, works quite nicely, and even the roof itself turned out pretty good. Now, there's a couple spots that maybe there's a couple things a little out of place, but overall, just the design, the shape, the choices, it all worked really well. Now, that said, not everything is 3D. Of course, as you can tell, the sort of pools of water and some of the other features and landscaping, those are actually just simply in 2D. Just try to add a couple of basic features I did not want to take away from the primary build, and I think it worked pretty well. Of course, the Sakura tree and all that stuff is obviously not going to be 3D either, because that would literally blow my mind. I don't know how I would even start that. So bottom line, guys, I'm really happy with some of these things. I think this is one of those builds that it's helping me learn a little bit more about kind of building, well, in this style. Not again my strong suit, but I'm really hoping that this gives you guys some ideas for future builds or to attempt 3D down the road if you're feeling a little bit, well, adventurous. But let me know what you guys think of this build in the comments down below. Would you even attempt a build like this yourself? Are you ever planning on doing 3D? And maybe if there's some ideas or concepts or I guess designs that you'd like to see me put in 3D down the road, I'll give it a shot. But if it's too complicated, I think I might blow a gasket, so let's keep them simple. Anyways, guys, with all that said, thank you so much for watching until the end of this video, and as always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.